Manchester United have to sell if they are to bring in new players. Will Ruben Amorim be able to bring in a midfielder before the end of the window? And could that man be Carlos Baleba?
Yeah, welcome back to Sunday Supplement and welcome back to Miguel Delaney, Charlotte Dunker and Jonathan Liu. Let's go to the back page of The Sun and what looks like a pretty surprising story, Charlotte. Back in the frame, legend David De Gea is an option for Ruben Amorim. Did you see this one coming?
No. I think this morning when we were talking about it before we came on air and someone suggested it, I was like, pardon? And it seems like the obvious link was that he was back at Old Trafford last Saturday playing a friendly, and Manchester United have remembered that actually he's an all right shot stopper, and maybe he is a better shot stopper than the guy that they had a lot of interest this summer, particularly from Saudi, but he and his camp are saying he's determined to stay at Manchester United. Amorim's quotes in his press conference on Friday didn't give him any assurances that he's necessarily going to be the first choice goalkeeper, but then if you look at who Manchester United have in their goalkeeping department, if he's not going to be the first choice, then they do need to bring someone else in, because Bayinda, when he's played, hasn't really filled anyone with much confidence. Tom Heaton's a great leadership guy to have around the club. Is he going to be Manchester United's first choice goalkeeper as they aim to get back on track? No. There's been the obvious links to Donnarumma. I think De Gea being thrown in there is a bit of a wild card. If we go back to obviously when he left, I think a lot of Manchester United fans, not that they weren't disappointed to see him leave, but I think there was a feeling that maybe it'd come to the end of the time. I think there was a bit of disappointment with how it ended in terms of he obviously didn't get the goodbye that people were expecting. He was sort of pushed out the back door a bit. You can see on the back page there he was presented with that frame last week because he never got that big goodbye after, and he'd been at the club for so long. But is he the solution for them in net? I'd argue not. It seems that they'd be going backwards a bit.
Alan Nixon is the reporter who's done this article, and he says that the Manchester United have been tipped off that he's got a clause in his deal allowing him to leave for a relatively small sum. The goalkeeping department generally, you're either brilliant at shot stopping or brilliant with your feet. How difficult is it to find both at the moment?
It is, and I think certainly the game went through a phase about maybe a decade ago where there was a real dearth of top quality keepers because of this splintering of the role into what you might call pure shot stoppers and players who could play with their feet, and there were very few who could do both. Then obviously you get guys like Edison and Alisson who became world class, you know, who lit up the Premier League for years. And I think these days that divide is less valid. I mean, we might talk about Donnarumma later. There's this idea that Donnarumma can play with his feet. He's much better with his feet than most goalkeepers of 10 years ago. But because he's also, you know, a great shot stopper, I think he gets that's partly why he's not in Luis Enrique's plans at PSG. And I think when United moved on from De Gea, they were almost. It was almost moving on from that model of goalkeeper as well. Onana was seen to be a lot better with his feet. It's certainly more conducive to the sort of the possession style, playing out from the back style that they wanted. So going back to him, unless it's just as a number two, you know, or somebody to bring through the young keepers, you know, although he wouldn't be on number two wages, but you know that makes sense. But if they're going back to the whole De Gea goalkeeping model, I think that suggests a bigger shift.
But then if they brought him back in as a number, surely they're only going to bring him back in if Onana